Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Caps Cast. After a little bit of a vacation break for the mid-season, we are now back. As always, my co-host Damien, he is back from England.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Glad to be back.
Glad to be back. Okay, so we've got a lot to cover because we've kind of been a little MIA just for a couple weeks there. So what we're going to do is kind of like the breakdown of tonight's episode. I think we're going to focus on last night's Champions League game, Champions Cup, whatever you want to call it, against the Mexican side, Pumas. And then essentially I think our agenda is to look at the MLS as a whole, because I have a couple questions for you, Damien, that I want to put you in the hot seat for, just to kind of like get your takes on it.
Sure.
Okay, so let's just like dive right in here. Last night, the Pumas team comes back into Vancouver. Which was interesting is that Vancouver was actually favorited for betting wise in the game, which you kind of don't really see when we line up against the Mexican sides.
No, like when you think about it over the last few years, anytime that we've actually lined up against the Mexican side, we've not done well. That like ranking there, the odds that they were giving at the bookies, that is solely based on the performances, right, that they've put in this season. There's no like heritage behind that or anything. It is just based off what they've seen. We went down to Monterrey, got the 2 goals that we needed to go through, which was a massive achievement for the club. Like, arguably the biggest achievement that the club has maybe ever made. And I think that has, like, actually put a lot of eyes on the Vancouver Whitecaps right now. And we're looking like a force. We are looking like a force in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and we're looking like a force in the MLS.
So it's kind of interesting because that's kind of like a good segue, because I think we did leave this at the Monterrey game before you went back to England for a couple weeks there. So this is kind of like a nice way that we can circle back and cover all of our ground. And I think you're 100% right. Is that away game to Monterrey, I think, defined where the club is at this moment in time. I think you're right. It put a lot of eyes. I would argue that was a decisive result. Fuck Sergio Ramos. I was so happy. He's kind of like one of those people that's like, you want him on your side, but like when he's against you, he's just it's Sergio Ramos. So I guess as a quick recap, like I was so glad to see him play. Was it Brian White onside?
Oh yeah.
Completely blew off their back line. So I think you're right. Like, this has put a lot of focus on us in the Champions Cup. And okay, so let's kind of get into last night then. One thing I do want to kind of shout out a little bit is how they organized BC Place. Last time when it was the Leagues Cup, there was like Pumas fans everywhere. You know, like it almost felt like they had this like home advantage in the Leagues Cup last year.
Yeah.
So shout out to the Whitecaps, like logistics and staff and ticketing. They kind of put all the Pumas supporters where they normally put all the traveling supporters, like in that back area of BC Place.
Yeah, kind of like opposite the safe side as to the left, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which is, I think, like a huge factor, especially when the Whitecaps are attacking the south side. Like, for it to be loud. I think it was Brian White said it in an interview like years ago that, you know, when you're in the like 80th minute attacking that side and you hear like the drums and the chanting, like it just gives you that like little boost of confidence.
Yeah.
So I think having that as an advantage is key. Okay, so last night's game, I thought it was like well attended for a midweek non MLS game.
Yeah, I think usually they don't get over the 10,000 mark in the stadium for the CONCACAF, and we were just under 13 last night, which
Yeah.
obviously got a large section of travelling fans. And what you were saying there about the seating in the stadium, I just want to touch on that as well, because one thing that I did notice is it's quite nice actually, because you've obviously got a lot of like Mexicans that have emigrated up here and now they're living in Vancouver, living in the country. It was funny because like when the Whitecaps scored the first goal there on the east side of the stand, let's say, when the Whitecaps scored, so many people jumped up in that stand, and it was noticeable that the partners, friends, whatever, stayed seated. And then when Puma scored in the last few minutes there, the partners, the friends, whatever, they all jumped up as well. It's I really appreciate the fact that they kept any Puma supporter out of the supporter side, and out of that like the safe side as an end, let's say. But being able to like look across and actually see everybody mixing like that, no violence, no like hassle, no altercations or anything. It's sort of like how football should be in a way. Like it doesn't need all the other violence in the stands and shit that you see like maybe across Europe and the UK. Like you couldn't put Man City fans and United fans in, or even a different example, United fans and let's say Celtic fans or Rangers fans. You wouldn't be able to mix them. There'd be violence, there'd be fighting, there'd be arguing, there'd be all sorts.
Yeah. I think that's like most European competitions too. Like you always hear it. Um I mean, I don't want to like single fan bases out, but I mean like you always hear like, Italian traveling fans to like England are always fucking rowdy. Same with like the Turkish fans. Like how many times have you seen like Twitter articles where it's like, oh, English traveling fans like bottled like opposition.
Stab. Yeah.
Like it's the
Yeah.
most common thing you see of like traveling football fans in Europe. And I think you're right too. Like everybody had like fun, as weird as that is. Like there was nothing crazy. But that's logistically wise. I think on the pitch is a completely different story. Uh, I
Yeah.
think I saw this tweet earlier, and I kind of wanted to keep it in my back pocket before telling you to like ruin the surprise. Is that the tweet said that these cross competition cups of like the Mexican and the MLS sides have become so chippy that it fires the fans up to a level that an MLS game normally doesn't.
Yeah, I think so. I think when you get these Mexican teams coming up playing, and like these teams from like the like say safe of the border there, let's say safe of the American border, they in the MLS you don't get too much aggressive rolling on the floor when you've not actually been touched. So the fans and that is something that like fans are very passionate about, I feel. And just from last night, every time the Whitecaps went near these players, they were rolling around. I saw a video today. So Jaden Nelson obviously got booked for a challenge on the goalkeeper. I saw the video. The Whitecaps posted the video. They posted a video of Sorensen being like, "Oh, I hope the keeper survives." And yeah, like rightfully so, he should be so like, "Oh man, like if that was me and I watched that back and I threw myself on the floor like that, and now everybody in the world can go and watch that video and know how much of a little pussy you are." Like, I feel so embarrassed. I'd never want to like grace a football pitch again in my life. It, yeah, if I were that keeper, mm,
I
yeah,
get it.
I don't know. I bet he
And
went home
like,
and his
okay,
wife looked at him and went, "Get me sick."
fuck out of here. So okay, I want to back pocket that because I think that like kind of leads into my segue um later on and kind of how I wanted to pose this to you is so the first half is relatively quiet. I think a lot of the drama started to mount, and by drama I mean like chippiness, harsher tackles started to like kind of build in that first half. Um First half,
Yeah.
I don't think there's really any talking points. I think it's both teams settling in, kind of feeling each other out, getting a grip on how quick this game's going to be, like in terms of like fast pace, like, everyone's kind of just like growing into it right away. Um, so my biggest takeaways from the game before we get into like the rundown of the game and kind of like go through this, that I just want to say this, and this is across all competitions, this is across anything, that Ngandu will always have a supporter as long as I'm alive. That if he doesn't have any fans, it means I'm dead.
Yeah, I think like looking at his performances, like you say, across all competitions here since he came back from Las Vegas, like he has been a player reborn. I don't know what they did in Vegas to him, like what they were doing down there, but yeah, he went away. He developed his developed his game. Yeah, and honestly, it's like just we've signed a very, very, very good MLS midfielder. He's strong. He gets around the pitch. He's up and down constantly. Yeah, I'm with you there, Matty. Like, I'm a massive fan of his.
Like as long as I'm alive, he'll always have a supporter. Just how he
Yeah,
moves
I
on the
second that.
pitch. Like, so I think, and this is the biggest talking point I think that me and you have. And I think it's because at the beginning of the season, there was a lot of uncertainty. And you fucking nailed this bang on. Is you said we have a lot of people returning that are considered new signings that not necessarily have happened. Ngandu being one of them, Eddie Ocampo being another. And I think them two have completely elevated this team. I that's where I think this is coming from. I think between Sorensen's tactics and them two players, it has just been a complete elevation.
I'd also like to give a little shout out there as well to Pedro Vite. Like,
Yeah.
same sort of thing. I don't know. I don't know if it was just maybe tactically he wasn't suited to the system that Vanny was trying to play. But in this system, he looks like a new player. He, I don't know, it's like he's got all this confidence again. He can run at players, take players on. His passing's better. His crossing of the ball's better. His ball retention is better. Yeah, it's. I think we've got very lucky in a way that Ngando has come back. Vite has gone up 2 or 3 gears. Kubas is just solid all the time. And then Berhalter, we saw glimpses last year of what Berhalter could do when Gold was absent. There were a few games where Berhalter really stepped up and looked like the midfielder that he can really be. And I think in a few more years, he will be a mainstay. Maybe not even of the Whitecaps midfield. Maybe he moves on, but he's going to be like a mainstay of one of the top midfields in the league.
Yeah. And I think another thing with like Vite is like this is a very North American like terminology is that he's in a contract year. He's out of contract at the end of the year. You know, he's kind of playing for his career. It's a very like North
Yeah,
American like hockey, NFL terminology, like even like the NBA, where it's like they're in their contract year. So this is when they're negotiating new terms. Like, and I think what better way for him to like enter that year because now he's showing like he's deserving of whatever, and I know there's a lot of like rumors of like him going to a Greek side for like 3 million. Um,
yeah,
but I think I do have faith that like Schuster might actually retain him. I think last year, if you were to say, hey, we can get 3 million for Pedro Vite, I think like both me and you would have driven him to the airport. and said like,
Yeah,
"Hey, like
yeah,
we'll save the Uber cost, like we'll drive them." But that's completely out of like it's a night and day difference.
yeah.
I think he's been such a mainstay in that midfield, and I know like at the beginning of the season, me and you were both kind of like going back and forth on like who's going to be our midfielders now that like we've got this like Stuart Arm, and I hate to like bring this back up, but like the Stuart Armstrong departure, but like Vitae Berhalter, Ngandu, Cubas, like we have way more midfielders now. We have way more talented midfielders than I think we thought we did.
Also, touching on that there with like the Stuart Armstrong thing. So, talent and what he can actually do with the ball at his feet. He's like in that midfield at the moment with Ryan Gold being injured. In terms of talent and actual let's say ability, if we had Armstrong, he would be the best of the bunch for sure. Like he's got more natural ability, more natural talent, let's say, than Berhalter and Engando. When I look at the way this team plays, in the way we're closing people down, chasing every ball, the amount of kilometers that these players are putting in every game of work, do you think that Armstrong would have been
No,
able to keep up with that? Like,
no.
would you sacrifice, looking at the way Nganda was played, would you sacrifice that work ethic and the constant just like going getting the ball back, the chasing down, to have Stuart's Armstrong ability, but then the rest of the team are almost going to have to carry him a little bit more defensively, if that makes sense?
And I think that's exactly what it is. And I think this brings us back to a whole different conversation of like, how do you win in the MLS? And I think these like aged players, like of like Messi, Suarez, Busquets, like they don't track back as much.
No.
They're not fighting for their lives because they've got everything in the world they've ever wanted to accomplish in their football careers. So why would they track back on a cold night in Cincinnati, you know, when
Yeah.
they don't have to? Whereas somebody like Bearhalter and Gandu, Priso, Vitae, like they are genuinely playing for their football careers because they,
Yeah.
not to say they haven't accomplished things, because being a professional footballer is a massive accomplishment, but that hunt for
Yeah.
more trophies and knowing that like if I am to go harder in this situation, that's going to provide success downstream, with like points. And are we going to make a playoff push? Because I think you saw the attitude of Jordi Alba last season when, oh, when they got eliminated, he came out and said, "Oh, this is a stupid system." And it's like, nah, fam, like this is the system that you are now playing in, and you've let an entire club
Yeah.
down.
You don't whine
Uh,
because you didn't win. Like, fuck off.
oh, we were the best in the table. Fucking great. We're not playing best of the table right now. Like we're playing North American style playoff football. Um,
Yeah, and I don't want to get into that anyway. That stresses me out because, yeah, fucking fuck.
so
Yeah.
I think the best thing that the Whitecaps have had happen to them in this last 6 months was Stuart Armstrong leaving, because I think he would be such a liability in the midfield in this system.
Yeah,
This
yeah, I think
possession based system that Sorensen is running, I think Stuart Armstrong would be an absolute liability. But on the flip ends of the things, this is exactly how Ryan Gauld plays. Is like possession
yeah,
based, looking to create chances. He's constantly got his head up. He's running hard. Like it's no wonder I think we've seen so much success.
yeah. No, I agree with that, and
Um,
I think when he comes back into this team when he recovers from his injury, I think it's almost going to elevate the team to an even higher level than they're already at. Because if I had to say they're missing one thing at the moment, I would say it is that like ultra creative
creative.
spark. Like they're doing everything well. They're keeping hold of the ball, they're doing like all the passing. They can get it into the box, but like even now you see a lot more crosses going in and not like balls being fed into Brian White. And I know he's good in the air, but I think he's missing that connection that he's got with Ryan Gold. And once he comes back into the team, and even Adekube coming back in, that's going to be a massive, massive benefit to the team.
And like I think too, like I mean, I guess we're kind of derailing from what we've kind of set out to do here, which is talk about the Pumas game. But I think, and I know like we're trying to make up for those like lost moments that we've had. But I genuinely think too that if this injury had happened with Vanny at the wheel, I would have been emailing asking for a refund on my season ticket because the season would have been done. We would never have progressed past Prisa. I think he was injured in the game, right?
In the return leg, yeah.
Yeah, I think I think there's no chance we would have been this far in the MLS in terms of like top of the West, which is something we can break down after. But I don't even think we get to this Pumas game. There's no chance that we win in Monterrey. And that's under a Vanny based system, and that Sorensen is getting the absolute best out of the squad.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think with Gold, it was more almost like the system relied more on him than it does now. Like he's going to come back and add to a very, very good system. Without him in the system under Vanny, the system sort of fell apart.
There's no system like if you look at the grand scheme of things, like Vanny's system was to play the ball through Gold, whereas I think Sorensen is to play it through every single person and to bring every single person on that pitch up to Gold's level. Which I'd argue that all 11 last night, the starting 11 last night have. So, okay, let's kind of like break this down now before we go really off on tangents. I think, okay, so the first 45 minutes are very uneventful. And then I think the second half is where it started to heat up. And I say heat up because there was obviously like an electrical issue at BC Place. The lights were going crazy. And then that kind of like put a stall in the game. Okay. Jaden Nelson comes on. Sabi comes on. And I think exactly like you said is that goalkeeper for Pumas goes down like a gunshot victim. And like you said,
one thing that really bothered me.
So he goes down, and then immediately after that corner, Brian White somehow scores. I still don't know how the fucking ball went in the net.
Yeah, it was a bit pinball, right? Like between a few players. I think the keeper went for it, misses it completely. It bounces off like 2 or 3 players, falls at like White's leg. He swings the leg at it, and somehow it trickles into the net. We'll take it, obviously, but
Jaden Nelson runs up to the keeper with his hand to his like mouth, his finger to his mouth, like shushing him. Which I fucking hope. I hope that the Southsiders make a banner out of that. Like if that doesn't get a banner made out of it, then like this is a huge missed opportunity. Very much like the guy from last year's Portland game that was like flipping off the Portland fans. And like the Southsiders made that a banner. Like this Jaden Nelson one has to be made into a banner. And that's when I think the game really started to not get out of control, but get a lot more chippy, you know?
Yeah, I think as well that like after that moment there was really like the catalyst for things to get a little bit chippy. The Mexican players, I feel, had already started trying to like go down, time waste at that point, roll around whenever they could. And then I think that was like the catalyst for it to get really, really physical because then we even saw it at the other end. There were a few bits like pushing and shoving towards the end there. It did get
Yeah.
a
And
little bit out of control, a little bit.
so, okay, I would argue that this was Sorensen's first misstep of managing the Whitecaps. Is he takes Ngandu off for Jeevan Badwal, who is deserving of minutes. I get it. But I think that was kind of the first misstep that I've seen from Sorensen managing a game. Because I don't know what the thought process was. Because we kind of needed Ngandu's defensive skills.
Yeah, I agree with that. My only thinking though, my only logical thinking was that he must have been getting tired. Like he must have said something to the bench about him getting tired because what minute did they take him off? And it wasn't overly early, right?
85th.
Yeah, man. It was like it's it's a hard one because you're at that point in the game where I think Bedwell technically is a defensive midfielder, whereas like and Gandor's more of a box to box. But this is where it's a bit shitty, and I'm like, I'm not talking shit about Bedwell here. He's not very he's not got the physicality to him. He's a very skinny, almost scrawny guy when you look at him. You know what I
Smaller.
mean? He looks like he might weigh about 160, 170. And you're just lacking that physical presence of Ngandor, who looks like he's probably weighing in at about what, maybe 200 pounds. He's like he's a bit of a unit, right? Like where he can throw his weight into things.
And I think that's
So
just it. Is that like there's always a time and a place for a sub, and I don't think this was it. Because the lead up to that play, I just fucking I could have said it out loud, but I didn't want to like lean over to you and say it. But the minute we defended their attack and kind of like knocked it out for a corner, as soon as just like 2 minutes before, I was like, it's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like this is where we concede, and like
yeah,
sure enough, corner comes, deliveries in, and it's in the back of the net. And now, I mean, this result, I think, if me and you were to have left BC Place last year at the League's Cup and went, oh, we like, not the League's Cup, because that would have gone into like a playoff. But say, like, last year, if we were in the Champions Cup and like, this exact team, we went, oh, wow, we just drew like the Mexican side, Pumas 1-1. Like, what a fucking result. Like, and then we could have jumped on this podcast, started hypotheticalizing all of these different points of being like, if we get a quick goal, like then we're up, then it's all level. We've got them on away goals. Like, I think, but last night genuinely felt like we fumbled the bag.
yeah. I think with you saying there about Vanny making not Vanny, sorry, Sorensen making the wrong tactical decisions there. I think in the starting lineup as well. So I think that Vite is a very, very good midfielder. I think playing him as the almost like right wing forward doesn't necessarily work. I liked last night that with Vite sort of coming inside because he naturally drifts in, it did open up quite a bit of space on that right hand side because Ocampo all night was up and down and looked very good. But excuse me, I think I'd have liked to have seen a midfield three of maybe Berhalter, even Ngando fitting in that like defensive midfield role, and then the midfield three of Ngando, Berhalter, and Vite, and then just so we had a little bit more of an outlet and a little bit more help on that right hand side for Ocampo, maybe starting Nelson or Sabi. A little bit confused as to why neither of them actually started, whether or not it was an injury or like fatigue or whatever.
Yeah,
But
and I think
yeah, I feel
it's tough to say because we right now we're kind of in the thick of it. we're playing twice a week. We've got another 90 minutes to go on Saturday. It's like Houston Dynamo, I think. Colorado. So we
Oh,
play Colorado,
Colorado.
on Saturday, and then we're going back down to Mexico to play the return leg. And then it's kind of just this back to back weekends, right? So I'm wondering if he was like trying to manage fatigue out of the gate, because I think, me and you were walking away from the stadium last night, kind of like just chatting or whatever. And we kind of were talking about the Gald injury, is that like last year Gald was similar to like that Iron Man where he was just like constantly playing, constantly like 90 minutes. And like I'm actually surprised he's injured this year versus last year's like incredible run, because you would
Yeah.
think a player playing that many minutes last year at the end like he's like due for an injury, which is like weird to say.
I suppose you're right though. Like you're saying, he was due for something. Like when you think back about his time at the Whitecaps, there's obviously been a few games that he's missed here and there, but I can't remember a time where he's faced like a long layoff.
No.
And
I th-
he's always a person, yeah, that is like carrying the team and like doing the most like for the team. So yeah, it was. You can sort of say, yeah, there was a bit of like sod's law, right? It was due to happen at some point, like you said.
yeah, unlike, Nelson's coming off a little bit of a knock. Sabi's returning from an injury.
Yeah.
I think, what did we say? Like Cubas last night was a dislocated shoulder. Laborda was out for something. Um,
So surely
Atakube's,
though, well, should be fit for the away leg, right? Like I know he's got a dislocated shoulder, but
yeah,
if I feel like if I'm in that position and they're able to pop your shoulder back in and potentially strap the shit out of it with KT tape or whatever and give you a few injections to numb the pain, for the importance of the game, I genuinely feel like it would take a lot more than a dislocated shoulder 10 days after it's happened to keep somebody out of it. I really do. Like, I feel for myself, I feel like I would try and play if I was in that position. I would do every last fucking thing I could to be on the pitch. Maybe not for the MLS game. And even for this weekend game, if I was Sorensen here, I would rest everybody important.
yeah. So I mean, okay, let's kind of like dive into this now, so we can kind of wrap up this Pumas game. I think, like, unless you have anything to say about this, like I think,
No, the only thing I will say is, as unfortunate as the 1-1 result is, I still think the Whitecaps played very, very well. Let me just ask you one thing here, Matt, quickly, and it relates to the game. In the CONCACAF, don't even look on the website that you got opened. On the CONCACAF club rankings, where do you think the Whitecaps rank out of all the clubs in like the MLS, the Liga MX, all that stuff?
yeah, okay. So I actually saw this post on Instagram. So they were the biggest movers, right? They were up 7 spots after their victory in Monterrey. I think it was like 13th, right?
13, man. And like a lot of people around the world would know who Pumas are if you mention them as a club. If you look at the
You know
teams
why?
that are in that, like 13, it's incredible though. Like, so in that top 13 there, you've got Pumas, Monterrey, Club Leon, Club America, Cruz Azul, and then obviously the big ones, Tigres, and then you've got like your Inter Miami, LA. For the Whitecaps, a
Columbus.
team that gets overlooked so much by the MLS in any sort of publication, the MLS release their power stats where it says, "Oh, this club has been doing the best. This club has been doing the best." For the first 4 weeks, when we were literally 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, they still put fucking Inter Miami at the top of that list. So it just shows how good of a job the Whitecaps have done to be that high on a list when everything basically is against them. Like the league is set up to be against them. Like there's not much care I feel for the Canadian teams. Like they're almost like an afterthought, and it's very nice that we're able to show that a Canadian team is one of the best 13 teams in the CONCACAF. It's incredible.
It is. I think it's also very interesting because, like, exactly like you said, the two biggest teams of like out of Mexico, and I think anybody would know that would be Club America and then Pumas. I think like gun to anybody's head, they could name Pumas. Um, Not because they are the dominant. I always tie it back to like FIFA Ultimate Team when they have the coolest jerseys with the big tiger head. It was always like
Yeah.
the different one, right? Um,
Yeah.
but you're 100% right. And okay, so that's kind of this leads me into my next point because you're exactly bang on that the MLS power rankings have to be the most useless rankings in the world. Second would be the UFC power rankings of the pound for pound. I think between them two
Yeah.
rankings are the worst and most biased rankings on this planet.
I
So
honestly think
okay,
the
so
MLS.
we
Sorry.
go on.
I think the MLS one is conjured up by Don Garber while Messi is sat on his lap. And
Honest
like,
to
oh, what do you
God,
think you'll go today, Messi? Do you want to be at the top again? And he's like, oh, yeah, please, Don. Uncle Don.
please. So we start 4-0, which is insane to think. So right now, I wish I had the standings up, but are we 2 points clear of the top?
No, we are 1 point clear at the top, I believe.
Okay, so we're 1 point top, 1 point clear. And that's all because I mean, like we could talk about this Toronto game. I don't think there's much to talk about. I think it is a good result away in the midst of things. Very lackluster game. I think like if you had one game to like not watch all season, it would have been that Toronto game.
Yeah, I feel like the players looked a little bit almost tired. And, maybe that's something to do with all the traveling that they've done in the last little while. Like, that's got to take it out of you, right? Like, I feel like we need almost like a home stretch or a stretch of games in the US that are all like in one sort of like geographical location, like playing, let's say, San Diego, LA, and then LA Galaxy all like over the space of 10 days. It'd be nice because then the players aren't moving. They've got time to like rest, and we just need something where we're playing, a few teams that are condensed either away from home or at home, and there's no travel.
To get like a little spark going, right?
Yeah, well, just even for the rest, man. Like you once said to me that you told me about an interview that Drogba did, and he said like out of all the leagues that he's played in, the hardest that he's ever played in was the MLS because of the travel. So
It's
just to
true,
even try
right?
and cut down on that for like a few days or whatever, just to because all that flying and stuff, you're not resting properly, you're not relaxing properly.
You're not in your
It's
own
a lot of
bed,
lost time.
Um so and I think that's true. Like we've done a lot of kilometers, between traveling to like Costa Rica, traveling to Mexico. We're gonna go on a return leg to Mexico this week. So we have technically a home away and then another home game.
But even traveling to
So
Toronto's not close.
no, it's not. It's a 4.5 hour flight, right?
And what 3 hours away as well, like time zone wise, like it's a massive change that.
It's a huge fatigue too. Huge fatigue. So like, I mean, we were kind of talking about this off the podcast, like that, a decent result away because weather conditions too. And I just think like the fatigue at this point, like Sorensen is kind of trying to develop like a rotation just for the amount of games. I think once we win the Champions Cup, that fatigue's gonna set off. Obviously, I say that because I do genuinely believe we can hammer this. Um, so we drop. I think like going back further to like the week prior, when you were still in England, is we lose to the Chicago Fire, and this is another bitch that I think is well documented across this entire podcast. Is playing through the international break is the like one of the stupidest ideas the MLS has. I get that they are in the business of making money, but at like it's just the stupidest thing.
For me, it's one of them things that if you're a top player, like you're a top player, you want to, and you go to a big club, you want to represent that club at any given moment. I also understand the pull of your country saying to you, "Yeah, we want you to come and play for us now." So I really think that not stopping the league during the international breaks will hamper big players coming to the league because they're going to think, "Why would I go somewhere that maybe for 7 or 8 games a season, I'm not going to be able to help my team? Not only am I not going to be able to help my team, if the team are building a good team like the Vancouver Whitecaps have got now, we lost almost 7 players to the
Yeah,
internationals, like with injuries as well. I think we were 8 players short of our first starting 11. How the fuck is that fair? Like, how can you be expected to compete? We've started the season 4-0. We lose that many players. We play a Chicago side that are shite. Like, let's be honest, they're shit, but they lost 1 player or 2 players if you look at injury. 1 player to international, 1 player to injury. It's horseshit. They've got basically their starting 11 against our kids, our Whitecaps too. It's I think
yeah,
it's the
I
biggest
agree.
crock of shit in the world that we play through international windows. It's so backwards. They need,
Um,
I think, the MLS to be like a
is
next level league. Need to adopt the European schedule, cancel these fucking playing through the international windows. And I saw something saying the USL is from 2026 are going to adopt relegation and promotion into the other leagues below the MLS.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So maybe I really think that would expand the MLS and make it like one of the top teams. Prior to them doing that, I genuinely feel that they need to get the league to 40 teams. They need to expand it so the league has 40 teams to make it, or at least 38. So you've got like a 19 league team, maybe 18 at tops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Two 18 team leagues. But I think if the MLS do all them and get rid of this stupid fucking salary cap, or like at least put it so we're actually able to compete with European clubs. Like this would be a desirable location to play. It's fucking North America. It's one of the most desirable fucking countries in the world to live in. Like,
For me, yeah, I agree, and I think for me the biggest like before you look at promotion relegation, I think for me it's the fucking international window, and I also think it is that our season doesn't align with Europe. I think, I mean, that's like a different talking point that we could go into one day, but I think that has to be sorted first. Is that we align our
yeah,
schedule to be with the European schedule, and I don't care if Messi doesn't want to play in a cold night in St. Louis. Like I genuinely could care less. I think
no,
then that's when the conversation of like, oh, the Whitecaps are in a dome comes into effect, and it's like, well, now who has the advantage? Like all
yeah.
these infrastructures, like any good European footballer has no problem playing in the rain. Like,
Any bad European footballer doesn't have any problem playing in their end, man. We were playing it on them pitches in Burnaby in what, like -11 in freezing rain in just shorts and t-shirt, man. Nobody minds about playing in the rain. It's
I had sleeves on.
but yeah, I suppose you did. But still, like I don't think the playing in the rain is like the problem, man. I think the US and like I hate to say it, I think they have this fucking like innate desire to be slightly different from everywhere else.
Yeah, I also like, I
Yeah.
mean, just from us talking, I'm also like, oh, is this because there's so much congestion of North American sports? You've got the NHL, you've got the NBA, you've got the NFL. And then them three are all pretty much August to December. You know, the NHL starts in like October, preseason begins well before. Same with the NBA, right? That's kind of like October, but you have the NFL from August to September. Um, and that's kind of my thinking now, based off of this like little conversation, is that like, is the MLS that scared that they're going to lose market share to those leagues, right? Are they going to lose viewers? Because any North American, like, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Any North American fan that is big into the NHL or NFL, like they're probably not going to give that up for the MLS, um, unless you're like
Well, no,
highly
so the
passionate.
NFL runs. Yeah, I just don't. I'm trying to figure out all the schedules. No, but I don't even think that it matter too much either. Like, I understand not trying to like compete with them and stuff
Yeah,
like for the time and stuff, but I don't think the fans actually mix that much. I don't think you've got fans that are going to like the hockey and then also going to watch the MLS.
yeah.
I,
I'm just
I
curious if
genuinely don't think
that's
you've got.
that might be like a calling
Yeah,
for, like, if there is like, like how they always call it, like the secret societies, where it's like, oh, does the commissioner of the NHL, the MLS, the NBA, the NFL, like the MLB, like, do they all get together and decide, like, hey, if you guys go in
some
the
sort of like
winter,
agreement.
yeah, like a quiet agreement behind
Yeah, I know
scenes.
what you mean.
But yeah, so I think like if we look at our results, I do take it with a grain of salt, at least the last two. So I had this big question for you that I really wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask it kind of after the 4 game win streak. But I think now that we've got a good sample size of results right now and opponents,
Yeah.
is that can the Whitecaps keep this up? Because we've started really, really hot. This is uncharted territory for me and you as supporters, right? Like, what the fuck do you mean we're top of the West? Like, what? Top of the West, 6 games into the season. Um, can we keep this up? And I'm not going to say win the MLS Cup, but can we keep this up and finish within the top 3 in the West?
So I think we can. I think right now though, for the, like I said, for this game coming up on the weekend here against Colorado, I truly believe Sorensen should rest anybody that he considers a crucial player. Should not be anywhere near the pitch on Saturday. Um, like, I don't even think Brian White should be playing on Saturday. I think the team can carry on this like form, the and the way that we're playing, but I just hope that he realizes that the CONCACAF Cup here for right now is way more important than the league, because yeah, it would be nice to finish in them top 3 spots, or even the top 4 spots, and secure like the home advantage for the playoffs. But at the end of the day, even if we shit the bed and finish 7th, we're still getting into the playoffs. Do you know what I mean? So I think all
Yeah.
efforts for right now need to be forced into the CONCACAF. But also, I think with Adekube coming back, Gold coming back, Sabi's just getting into the team, who I also think looks very, very good. Like,
Phenomenal. I think
he's
the yeah.
very entertaining on the ball. He knows how to pick out a pass. He times his runs very well. I think with him coming into the team a little bit more, I also think in the next little while here we might see a little bit less of Ali Ahmed and more of Jaden Nelson going in there. Yeah, because I think Ahmed's been a bit poor for the last couple of games that he's been on the pitch. And I think there's gonna be a shift there where we switch them out. And I think the going forward, a fully fit team there, I it's a bit of a rough one on the right wing back because Ocampo's been so good. I think he's going to keep Laborda out of the squad. But when you've got these players coming back in there and we've got the actual depth and the proper squad depth that we need, the way that Sorensen plays and the way the players have adapted to it, I don't think there are many teams in the MLS that will actually struggle to play against.
So that's kind of also the follow-up question that I wanted to kind of ask you is, do you genuinely believe, and I mean, like, I've been riding his fucking coattails and waves, whatever you want to call it, like Adekube. I've been the biggest supporter of Adekube, even though you big timed him at the signing. Um, but like,
An awkward moment.
I've been the biggest supporter of this guy since signing, but I think he's looked so much better playing in Sorensen's system than he has in Vanny's. I think him and Ocampo, as however you want to put it, left back, right back. I think Ocampo is kind of flexible where he could play both. You know, I think
Yeah.
I think he would prefer to play right back because I think he's right footed.
Yeah, so putting crosses in and whipping them in, yeah, for sure.
So I think having Adekube and left back and right back is going to be our keys to success. I genuinely, after watching Ocampo play for the last like 3 weeks, he was fantastic away in Monterey. Scored that fucking screamer.
Yeah, he did,
Um,
yeah.
I he doesn't offer too much defensively from what I've seen, but what I have seen is he's scrappy and he fights. And that's
Yeah,
my
he's
kind of
quick.
wingback.
Yeah, and he's quick across the grass as well. So, like, even even if he's not like technically good enough to be throwing the tackles in, just the fact that he's able to get back and be up the winger's ass and just like be
He
holding him, like giving him little shirt pulls and things. It's like all that disruptive shit. Like it's got massive value on a football pitch.
he reminds me of like Cucurella. Like he's not the best defensively, but he's gonna put in a fucking shift each week. He's going to track
Yeah,
back. He's going to run up the pitch. He's going to kind of be positionally sound, but he might not be, the best defensively for like a right back or a left back, whatever Sorensen ends up playing him.
yeah,
But he deserves fully to be on the pitch in that position.
yeah. I genuinely think, Matt, that yeah, we with the team fully fit going forward, and I think that everyone should come back in the next 3 weeks. I think Ryan Gold will be back. They said that he's got a bit of discomfort in the knee. It's not actually like it's hurting him now. Like it's just every now and then it flares up, right?
Yeah.
So I think that'll probably be resolved in the next like few weeks. Sam will come back. Laborda will be back. Kubas fully back. Looking
Utvik
at the
too.
midfield there, so you've got that midfield three, let's say fully fit. You've got Kubas, who's guaranteed starter, Gold, who would be a guaranteed starter. The fact that you've got three players of the quality of Ngando, Berhalter, and Vite all fighting for that last spot in midfield, that like that is huge for the Whitecaps. I genuinely think we've got one of the best midfields in the MLS, and I don't mean for the individual talent that is on display in the midfield, but for how that midfield combines and works as a three, and the fact that it doesn't matter what the midfield three actually is. That's like sensational. Like, and also Priso as well. I forgot to mention Priso there. You've got depth in every single position. Like you can pull, say, Kubas, Gold, and let's say Ngando, and instantly replace them with Priso, VT, and Berhalter, and maybe the quality of the play would go down, but the idea and how we're actually going to play remains the exact same. Like everybody's on such like the same wavelength. It doesn't matter who you pull, and I
Yeah.
don't think many teams have got that.
No. And I think that's kind of one thing that we didn't see with Vanny that we're seeing with Sorensen is that whoever you put in that position doesn't instantly become a liability. And I
Yes, yeah,
think like, when Gald would come off the pitch and get replaced by Ahmed, like, okay, he's now becoming a liability because he's not doing what Gald's doing. And like vice versa too, right? Like say like, Vite would come on, subbed on for Cubas, like that was just such a liability. And it was things that me and you were pointing out last year that this year is completely flipped the switch. And it's like, okay, we don't have these individual talents that are making the system. We have this incredible system with these players that are just slotting into it.
yeah, yeah. No, I think the way that the Whitecaps are set up at the moment is fantastic, and I think it's the most enjoyable football that I have ever seen them play. Like this, the opening to this season has been so uplifting as a fan to actually go and watch this. And yeah, it's just after years of being knowing that we were gonna almost go and like put a good fight up against some of these like bigger clubs. I'll be honest, the one game that really solidified it for me and give me really high hopes of how good we can be is the Dallas match away. We went to Dallas and absolutely played them off the field. Like they couldn't
That
get
was
near the
last
ball.
season.
No. Or was it Houston? It was this season, beginning of season. We played them. It was like the
Oh,
third game or
right. Sorry,
something.
I
We
was
beat.
thinking. I
We
was
beat them.
thinking the Dallas game. Yeah. You're right. You're right. You're right.
No, yeah, and we absolutely played them off the field. And I know Dallas might not have had the best start to the season, but to go there and actually comfortably swat them aside, and even the LA Galaxy game, they were the reigning MLS Cup champions, and we brushed them aside like they were nothing. It's not just luck, it's not coincidence, it's good game management, it's players putting in everything that they can possibly put in for the club and doing as much, like just giving every last bit of energy.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice because you're seeing like all 11 players on the pitch actually do that and actually give the same amount of like fucking commitment for everybody else. And I don't think we've seen that before. I think you had like Brian White, Ryan Gold running around like headless chickens doing way more work and putting way more effort in than everybody else. And now it's more of like almost like a kindred team spirit where everybody will die for everybody else.
See, I almost kind of think like this too, where it was like, we would kind of drive to the stadium and it's like, oh the fuck, like who's in the starting 11? Oh, why the fuck is he out there? You know what I mean? Whereas like, this is gonna sound bad, but like genuinely, like when we were driving to that Pumas game, like it didn't matter who was on the team sheet. Like I genuinely felt confident that whatever Sorensen put on that pitch, we were gonna get proper performances out
Yeah.
from. And just to like slowly kind of like subtly put this in there too is that like I feel like Tate Johnson, who's been kind of filling in for Adekube, has really like he's still raw as like an MLS player, but like I think he's also playing above his current level.
Man, it's funny that you mentioned that because, and I just want to say for anybody that's listening, I know we're an hour in a year almost, but
Who dropped everyone off?
Matt and I have not talked about Tate Johnson prior to this either. But before you mention that, I wanted to get it in myself before the end of the podcast, like just a special mention because I'll be honest, when I first saw him come into the team, he's a bit of a shorter guy, and I was a little bit worried just because of the physicality and like thinking that he might not be able to like handle himself against like a bigger striker and things. he has come in and done such an incredible job for his first year as a draft pick. Like, honestly, who'd have thought that he'd have been doing this? Like, well done to him. It's quite nice knowing that we've got an adequate replacement for him, for Adekube, who can actually slot in there and yet do a very, very good job. And he's going up against good teams and good players and still doing a good job. Like, yeah, like very, very, very well done to him. I think he's been
He's
incredible
raw.
in the
Like
short amount of
I
time that he did.
I will admit, like the Monterey game, like he kind of lost his man, But I mean, it happens, right? Like when you're playing against high level teams, you're raw because you've just come from like it was university, right? Like that's how he
Yeah,
came in. It wasn't through academies. Like you don't play this level, and for him to like slot into these Monterey games, the Pumas games, like well done to him. I was a huge fan when he was like bantering at the like kickoff party, and like the minute I
yeah,
saw him on the team sheet, I was like, okay, like he's a nice kid. I mean, it's kind of weird as a 34-year-old adult to say like a 19-year-old, but like he's a good kid. um I really wanted the best for him, and like my god, has he exceeded the expectation.
yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, I think he's come in and done a really, really good job, and he might end up being like one of the like a long term sort of fixture for the club here. Like,
Yeah, if you
I think he's got
genuinely said to
potential sort of
me
thing.
if you said to me like Adekube, in 2 years is going to move on, um I don't want to see that. I mean, you know what, I don't want to see Adekube move on. I think he hasn't really had the best second go at the Whitecaps. But I think he's going to fit really well into this Sorensen system. And from what he's done in the first, couple games of this season, I feel like he's completely elevated. But if you said to me like, hey, in 2 years, Adekube is going to move on, a couple injuries, I'd have like the utmost faith in like Tate Johnson being that replacement. And I hope this is something that the scouts of the Whitecaps are listening to, that like Tate Johnson is that guy. I genuinely
Yeah,
believe he is.
no, yeah, I agree.
I
So
like I
I
said,
agree.
I
So
think he's really raw. He's really green, but it looks like he's very coachable. And to see the
yeah,
progression from like his debut, I mean, he scored on debut with like the weirdest goal, like, but I mean, to see that
very
progression, like
yeah.
from his debut to like now, it's like night and day difference.
You can
Um,
see that he's
so like,
almost
yeah,
playing
I
with a
think
little bit
like
of
he
confidence.
definitely deserved a shout out.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree.
So, but so now this weekend, I guess we're an hour in. Um, so I
Yeah,
guess we'll kind of like wrap it up here.
yeah. We've got
So I
Colorado coming up.
guess we'll try and jump on next. Yeah, we'll try and jump on next week, and then I'm unfortunately leaving Damien for a couple weeks, so I think we'll go on a little bit of a vacation again. But after that, I think me and Damien have no foreseeable plans except for football.
Maybe I'll come on here and give my unfiltered views and get us banned off every platform
Yeah, if you
streamer.
guys want to see us, if you guys want to see us banned and like out of a podcast, I'll give Damien the keys to the studio. I selfishly was gonna come on after the Monterey game and just kind of ramble. But I was like, no, I don't have it in me. But I think Damien could do like a stand up job testing the what's allowed from Spotify and what's allowed on YouTube.
I will say
You
one
know?
thing: Matt, if we get through the Concacaf here and get through into the semi-finals, Matt let me know today. There's a little chance that he might not be here for the home game. After that game, though, depending on how the result goes, maybe either way the result goes, I will try to jump on. Maybe Matt will try and jump on from wherever he's in the looking wherever it goes.
Yeah, we'll play it by ear. I don't mind jumping on. Um, but we can have like a short, like 10-minute emergency, like holy fuck, did you see that? Holy shit, like fuck that guy, type
Yeah,
thing.
we should
But
have
yeah,
a thing on our phones.
yeah, exactly. Something just a little bit fun. But yeah, we'll end it here. We'll jump on next week and then we'll kind of play it by ear for the rest of April. But then May, June, July, and so forth, you have our undivided attention.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, till next time, everyone.
Yeah, good night, everyone.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Caps Cast presented by Whitecaps Fan TV. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram listed below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content.